we have our keynote speech. So please join me in welcoming Suzaya Kalenisan, our Acting Division Chief of Project Management and a dedicated leader with over 17 years at Caltrans. Stepping into this role since November of last year, Suzaya brings deep expertise from her time as Deputy Division Chief of Local Assistance, overseeing nearly 50 local funding programs and projects valued over $15 billion. Prior to local assistance, she worked at the headquarters SB1 office supporting the Rebuilding California project and the development of Cycle 2 metrics for the SB1 programs in collaboration with CTC. She also held various roles in District 7 capital project delivery, including design engineer, design manager, and project manager. Suzaya holds a PhD in civil engineering and also has worked with the World Bank, providing technical and pragmatic support on multi-billion-dollar international projects, and also has worked on research projects funded by Department of Defense. When you talk about Suzaya, we're talking billions. So let's give a warm welcome to Suzaya Kalenisan.
Thank you. That was a very flattering introduction. I probably wrote it at some point of time for some other reason, but yeah, take it with a pinch of salt. Good afternoon, everybody. It's so nice to be here. And it's really exciting to see so many people at the PMSU Academy. I hear they started it recently. I didn't know they had one. So when I heard about it, I was so surprised and I felt even a little bad. How come I didn't know they had this academy? It's a recent one, so I'm forgiven. So I want to keep this a bit more interactive. Did you all have good flights here? Is everybody able to just get here on time, get started? All right. How many of you are with Caltrans for more than 5 years? Less than a year. Let's say under 2 years. All right. Mixed bag. Let's go table by table. And I want to hear either one thing that you find really fun about your work or one thing that you find as a challenge. You could share either, and anybody can. But tell me what comes to your mind first. Okay? We'll start with this kid. You can just... It could be either a fun or challenge. What comes to your mind first?
I guess the fun part of it is the collaboration. You have to talk to all the PMs in this line of work. So, and sometimes you're able to get little tidbits of knowledge from them. So that's the fun part for me.
Okay. Any challenges for anybody?
Well, for me, for my position, my most challenging task is taking meeting minutes.
Okay. All right.
That's always been my nightmare.
Okay. Any burning things that you have to say about challenge or fun before I go to the next statement? It's like, you have to hear me out. This is bad for me. Yeah? Okay. All right. Next table. You can speak up if you don't have a mic.
Design and project management, so that's...
Okay. Then you have cross-organizational awareness and you have opportunities for it. Okay. Any challenges here?
If I have to say a challenge, sometimes I'm given a project all of a sudden and I have no idea what it is about, and we have to have a meeting in like 2 days. So I'm like, okay, I have to gather all the information. So sometimes it's overwhelming that we have to get all the information. But yeah, it's a challenge to know so many projects, especially in project management.
Getting thrown at the deep end, that's our specialty. Okay, next table.
I think something really special with Caltrans is the community involvement for certain projects that sometimes they require it and sometimes they don't. But our PIO gets involved with the whole team, so it's kind of nice. And then they're there for the entirety of it, so we get to see, the success, and then the community feels like we took care of them. So that's nice.
Yeah, she's the daisies and butterflies part of the storyteller. I like that. Challenge.
For me, I think challenge is one of the most interesting things is realizing how many units and functions are involved in delivering a project, and just sometimes the complications involved in trying to deliver, let's say, under budget, below due date, etc. But sometimes it's not as easy as we'd want it to be, considering just how complicated it is working as an entire department. But I guess that's also something that makes it interesting in our department.
Right? How intertwined we are as a department can be pretty complex. Stable.
Well, one of the nice things that I think it's really nice from working at Caltrans is getting to interact with so many people that have so many talents, that have so many skills, that you can learn so much from them. And you, at the end of the day, never know what you can learn from them, not only on the technical side, in the career side, but also in your personal life.
Okay. Peer-to-peer learning opportunities. Hey, challenge? Okay.
I think maybe it depends on your district, but we have unique challenges in District 9 being so small and remote. We're understaffed for sure, so that can definitely be a challenge.
Yeah, lately we just can't find the people to do the work. Right. Okay, that's stable.
I have a challenge.
Okay.
So going off of what Selva said with District 9 in particular, we also have a very young group with PMSU, meaning that all of us are under, all of us who are within PMSU are there under a year. So what we have a problem with is overall lack of processes, because that knowledge has left with the former employees that we had at the district, and that knowledge has left. We have some instruction, but we don't have a lot of guidance. So we rely so heavily on other districts, and we're constantly trying to build that network, constantly trying to reach out to people. I would say 9 times out of 10, we get a lot of really great information. And then that one time it's like, well, every district does it their own way. We're still trying to develop that way. So it's like, we're leaning so hard on other people. And then you get a lot of people who are like, why isn't the task done yet? We're trying to figure it out. So that's like one hope really trying to gain from being here is, how do we develop those processes, and how do we develop that network, and just make it ourselves overall a better unit and a better district.
You're being nice. It's 9 times the bad information once that I didn't.
Listen, I'm new to Caltrans. Okay, I'm still on probation.
Anything else for this group?
Yeah, for District 1, one of the issues that we're having is with the federal projects, that sometimes in FADs, budgets will change, whether they're adding advanced construction funds or they're converting them, or sometimes they'll just change the budget and they don't let anyone in PPM know. So we're expected to just go to FADs and check the budget. So we typically will go to Data Link or Prism for the budget, and everything looks good, and all of a sudden we find out we're overexpending. We have unbilled on the federal side because something changed and we weren't told. So it's very difficult, as you know, with everyone's schedule to constantly check yet another database to try to make sure you're keeping up with things. So.
Our data problem is very tricky, very complex.
So a lot of those challenges I can relate to. We can relate to, because everybody's retiring, and there's all the knowledgeable staff are going, and I've been there less than 2 years, and I'm one of the most knowledgeables after we lose the next one. But something we struggle a lot with is the DES task orders. We don't know, what's hitting our project, how much. We don't know how to research them. So that's a challenge. That's what we struggle with. So
it wouldn't be an academy if somebody didn't bring up a contract. Yeah.
I think a challenge is like in an ideal world, like your PMs would be people who went through PMSU, have the Prism knowledge and like know the job. But in reality, sometimes we get people who are qualified but don't have that experience. And as like an APM, you're expected to know what the PM's job is, but the PM doesn't know how to do your job. So in reality, when they're off, like we pick up the pace, but when we're off, they're like, it's a fire going on. We don't know how to use Prism. They don't know what's going on in Prism. So that's a challenge. But something I do enjoy is like right sizing projects and like not challenging, but kind of questioning my functional units when they send me like work, like a WBS, and saying, really, do you really need like 15,000 hours, or can you actually do it in like 10,000 hours? So that's something I enjoy, is actually like digging deep into my projects.
Great. And I think the perfect note to do what I'm planning on doing next. And I am guilty of being that PM that put my APMs through torture. All right. So we're going to do a little bit of an exercise, and you have to pair up for this. So pick the person next to you or pick one across the table. But you may want to scoot closer together. We're going to play this game called the gift giving game. So I'll pause. Do you all have partners? You may want to be closer to each other. Okay. Are you all ready? Well, you have to be able to give a gift and take a gift. Are you close enough for that? You could get up and lean over, as long as you can reach the other person. All right, are we ready? Okay, so this is called the gift-giving game, and I'll tell you the details of this later. Imagine you're giving a gift to somebody, okay? Imagine you have a box in your hand, and you're handing that imaginary box to your partner. Now, what the other person's going to do is take that gift, and they're going to open it, and they're going to thank them for the first thing that comes to their mind, right? They're going to say, thank you for giving me a unicorn, whatever, right? Whatever comes to your head. It could be a big box, it could be a small gift, a big gift in a small box, whatever. Now the other person should say, I know you would love this, and I gave you this because. And then you're going to exchange and do the same thing again. Ready? Okay. First thing that comes to your mind, okay? Don't hesitate, don't overanalyze. Whatever comes to your head. It could be the craziest things. Okay? All right. Go. You have 30 seconds for the first person.
Really excited to give you the stationary energy.
Okay, did everybody exchange your gifts? Both sides? Yeah, you guys at the back? The other table at the other corner? Yes? Did everybody exchange your gifts? Okay. What were some of the surprising gifts you heard about?
Chicken.
Okay. Chicken, good. What else? A puppy. All right. Chocolate cake, okay. Were there any outlandish ones? $1 million. Good. Smart. Okay. You know, the person that opens the box first, you always found what you wanted. You could pick that gift. The other person who gave you the gift, they did not know what they were giving you, right? So when you told them what it was, how was the expression on their face? Funny? Funny, right? What else? There was surprise. They enjoyed it. And when the same thing happened to you, did you enjoy it? Okay. as we went through the tables and talked about challenges, right? And you're thinking, oh my God, I don't know how to handle PRISM, right? That's like the chicken you got in the box. But you enjoyed that chicken, right? You didn't mean to give it, but when you heard it, you enjoyed that gift. Every challenge that comes your way is like that unknown gift in that box. Your attitude was different towards this because you approached it as fun, as surprise, as an adventure. It was an opportunity. Often for people at all levels, right? Whether you're in a support unit, whether you're at a leadership level, there's anxiety, there's built-in unknowns, there's expectations that's thrown at you at the last minute. In fact, as you go through the ranks, you lose power because you can no longer say no, right? As somebody who's just joined the organization, you can say, I don't know, train me, guide me, right? You can say that no longer as you're growing. As somebody who's experienced 5 years in your own unit, you no longer can say that. So often there's an anxiety when we go in the roles, right? New project, I don't know what's going on. I don't know which division has the answer to it. I'm not technically qualified to handle this database. Or there's a contract issue. It could mean $1 million that's lost in the process. But often, when you approach it as that unicorn in the box that you've never seen before, it becomes fun. So when you embrace your adventures, it's fun. I try to apply it, easier said than done, but I want to offer that tool to you. So as you go into your roles and you go back and you feel like you're struggling with this, for a second, think about this exercise. I know you'll be able to smile. That task will become just a little easier for you. Okay. I want to share a couple of stories. And I hope, this will help you approach the academy better. So the first story is about World War II. This is sometime back in 1944, 1945. Have you heard about the D-Day battle? Okay. It was one of those battles where the Allied forces won over German troops. And that was a turning point in the victory and which side was going to win in World War II. But in order to be able to win that battle, and I haven't been in the army or anything. This is a Googled in a research story, so pardon me for any inaccuracies in history, but I hope the message sticks with you. So in order for the Allied troops to win this battle, and they were facing German troops on the beaches of Normandy in France, they had to cross the Rhine River to get there. But crossing the Rhine River wasn't easy because German troops were posted all along the way, and the Allied forces could never get across to go to Normandy. This is where a different troop of army came in. And this was fashioned by the British Army. And this was a group of artists, sculptors, painters, tailors, photographers. What they did was they created a scene of the army. So they had inflatable rubber tanks. They had props and dummy dolls for human beings. They made it seem like it were two troops of 20,000 each, and they could create this, a vision of as though it was a 40,000 troop army that was staged by the Rhine River. And they also mimicked, radio traffic signals, and they would have, messages being transacted, sergeants barking out orders saying, soldiers, put out your cigarettes and get back to the front or whatever, right? It was very realistic. It was staged very well. So that was this deception technique that threw the German troops off, sent them in the wrong direction when the Allied forces could actually cross Rhine. And eventually they got to Normandy and won the D-Day battle. What was important was not just that this group of, not soldiers, right? Often some of you feel like that in PMSU. You're not engineers. You're working with engineers. You have to make them successful. Why is it your responsibility? Or how can I even do that? I'm not skilled on that front. You're somewhat like this army, which was called the Ghost Army, which is trying to help the actual troops get to their victory. It was not so much that they won the war. They won the war by saving 20 to 40,000 lives. And that was very meaningful to both sides. Now I'll share another story, and then we'll connect these two stories back to what you did. Have you heard about this firm called Knight Capital? It is a financial services firm. So what they do is they develop software and other services for financial firms. Right? So for NASDAQ, whatever, for the stock exchange, for other capital, hedge funds, and so on. So Knight Capital was developing this trading software, and this is an automated trading software that could buy and sell shares. And there was a new team that was developing it, and somebody made an error in the code. And somebody forgot to check the code. Somebody forgot to replace a section of the old code which is not used. And somebody forgot to make sure that nothing triggers that old code. And somebody forgot to do all the testing and debugging before it was deployed. So anyway, it got deployed. And in the 30 minutes that it did, it handled so many hundreds of trade that it sent up 145 stocks in NYSE, increased by 10%. These were all ghost trades that the company never intended to buy. And that really drew out all the capital. So in 30 minutes, the errors in trade that was made cost the company nearly $450 million. Driving it to bankruptcy, somebody else bought the company, saved it from bankruptcy. But this was something that was really, really silly. If you look into the details, it was about somebody not handling code right? So connecting the two stories. You don't need to be a soldier. You don't need to have warfare skills. And yet, the group of artists that brought their A game to that battle and who knew what their role was, right? They were trying to help the Allied forces win. And they were trying to do it through their skill sets, through their creativity. Having an understanding of their role, what value it adds, helped them win, helped save lives, helped save millions of dollars. On the other side, they were software developers. They were in the right team. They did not understand their role. They did not see the value of what they did. And a simple error led to millions of dollars in loss. So I want to tell you guys, today's academy, or this week's academy, this is the first step in the right path, right? You are first equipping yourself with all the right tools. You're going to have some great, spokespeople here. They're going to share about subject matter knowledge. Use it to the maximum possible extent. Go back and put it to use. And if you feel there are gaps to that instruction, come back. Share that feedback with the headquarters team here. Ask us for better resources. Push us to do better in terms of training. But use that training. Second, understand your value in your team. It doesn't matter how insignificant your role feels. First of all, it isn't. You're all critical parts of a big web of things. But you have value to add. And when you bring your A game, when you bring your creativity, your ingenuity to your work, you will help the project delivery battle be successful. And in reality, you're saving lives because transportation transforms lives. So remember that, and don't be like the other software coding group at Knight Capital, but be the ghost hunter. So I will stop there and now see if you have any questions. Yeah, is this the after lunch session? Okay, what kind of questions are you getting from your project management team? Okay, charging, all right. Do you feel equipped to do your job?
But as I've been in it, like doing it, like it makes more sense now. But it took so long time to get really very people that were out. I think we're getting there. I think it's going to be like a start. Because anything you're going to do, you're like.
Okay.
I think we give you like training because I'm looking so give these people training. It's like you're just like an employee, have no idea what the heck PTCs are. They don't know what EAC is. They don't know what PRISM is, and then they have a PM. And you go to them. So I think it's just like starting people off like slowly, so that when they do take PRISM training, like big guys, like they understand like.
I almost feel like you should take the training, go do the task, come back and take the training again. It makes more sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're probably giving each other kudos for how awesome they are at work. I hope my team at the back is taking notes for some training needs in the district. So Chuck hears about it. But I'll take comments from everybody. But I do want to acknowledge that we have a lot of new staff, and there's no one that's experienced that also has the time to sit and walk everybody through just practical aspects. You can take the prison training. There's also the practical application of it. There are some things you learn only when you do it. And you kind of have to work through prison for a year or two before you get the tricks of the trade. A smart PM should get trained. They shouldn't have a tool that they rely on so much if they don't know how to handle it. You can nudge them in the right direction. And for this team here, as you get experienced and you learn more, make sure you encourage and share your knowledge with people that are coming in new. When I got trained by the more experienced people. Right? It was not always an easy answer to the question you put. Sometimes they would make me earn the answer, right? Send me to do a few things, so I learn it. In the process, you end up learning more. You don't have that layer because so many people have retired, but you do have resources. So you may have to take trainings multiple times. You may have to go read up on your own. You may have to watch these asynchronous videos that we have available. But motivate each other. Right? And I'm saying that because there isn't an easy fix to the problem we're seeing in the districts. It's going to be a tough year or two before we get there. So hopefully we can all help each other. Okay, other comments? That's a very good comment, and this takes me back like 15 years or so, when I was trying to figure out things as a project engineer. And often you have people that have several years of experience, but they're experienced in their part of the design, right? And you want something connecting two different areas, and they don't have the answer for it. And that's what helped me. We had a forum where everybody could just go and ask questions. And it's also a safe space, right? When you're asking questions one-on-one, it's a little intimidating sometimes. You don't want to come across as silly. I think a forum like that helps where everybody can ask questions, and that way you can share knowledge. Another advantage about having these academies is about sharing best practices, right? Please engage a lot in the next few days. Share what's working for you and what is not, and seek solutions from each other. Then put that into practice. And when you have good feedback, share that back with our headquarters team so we can share it as best practices across the state. We are planning to do some workshops. I was initially planning that just for the project managers and the project delivery team, maybe at the PE and PM level. But now I feel like maybe workshop for PMSU team will also be helpful. We could just talk through the processes with you. This is probably going to take more effort than PMs because you work on so many different things. It takes subject matter expertise across a breadth of things. But I'll think about it. Maybe that'll help all of you. Any other things? Yeah, training and succession planning are all part of what your chain of command needs to focus on, right? Leadership at all levels. So great comments there. Again, I think several functions or divisions are facing this challenge where you have 2 or 3 people, everyone up the chain of command now retired, and you have new people all through the ranks. I think there are a lot of structure to how we do training, and if that's what you need, the resources are available. But often there isn't an understanding of what can be fixed through training and what is something that you gain through experience, and what is something perhaps you solve by coming up with an innovative solution. That is where I feel like you're stretched, because now you have to come up with a solution that's not a standard case, and you still have to solve the problem, and you still don't have the time. That is where trainings like these help, because you're coming together and you're thinking, you're putting on different hats, if you will, and you're trying to think outside your comfort zone. And then you take back with you these innovative ideas that are good tools to work on your problems with. But having a forum like you mentioned, the supervisor staying engaged with their team, that's very important. If you feel like you're having conversations with the team where you don't feel like the team is trained and they should be, elevate it. Elevate it to your supervisor so they can have conversations. And if you are a supervisor, go and seek out the resources that you need for your team. You will never actually find the time to sit down and train, right? That's our biggest problem. We don't have time for anything. But you have to make the time to train and to be trained. Any comments? Anything else? Okay. That is a loaded question. Okay, and I will try to keep this light. So from when you say upper management, let's say right from the executive level, right? That's me speaking for a few levels above me. We are an agency that's focused on transportation, right? We want to transform lives. We want to build a thriving community. We want to make sure there are transportation alternatives. So it's our strategic plan that drives us. Right? What's our mission, vision, goals, our strategic plan? I think you should all at least be aware of that as a document. Why should you be aware of it? Because what you do connects. It is like winning that D-Day battle, right? You're probably just somebody who is creating a prop for the set, but you know your ultimate goal was to win that battle. So understanding that is important. So if you ask me as a department, what's our goal? It's our strategic plan, it's our mission vision. But in the process, that translates down to each office, each district. Which district are you in? 8? So every district has its own partners, right? Your stakeholders that you work with, the people that you serve, and the population is different in every district. Some are urban areas, some are rural, some are a mix of both. Some are very, dispersed communities with a sprawl. They're commuting long distances. Others are probably more urban environments that have other transportation facilities that they can use, multimodal options that they can use. So what is the community you're serving? And why are your projects important? Let's say, you have a PM that's working on a project and they need you to take meeting minutes, right? And you have people talking about bike lanes and the project wasn't about that, right? And here you're sitting there looking at the agenda saying, why am I here? Why is this person, rambling away about a subject? Knowing that somewhere our job is also to understand the stakeholder brings you some empathy. Maybe you can follow up and say, I need a backup note taker. It's a lot of information, and I know this community is going to be very engaged. I want to stay on top of it. Give me the tools and resources for it. When you have that connection, then you're able to do your job better. And I'm saying this in the most simplistic terms. You should also talk to your immediate supervisor, and they should probably talk to your chain of command to say, what is my division's, my office's strategy? When a new strategic plan comes out, usually the first year or so, that gets disseminated down to all divisions, and we all come up with our divisional strategies. And we all break that down into measurable actions for our teams. So you should talk to your supervisors, your office chiefs, your deputies to say, what is that metric that you're measuring our performance with, our effectiveness with? How was my role contributing to it? This is a question you should ask them. And to ask that, you need to be in these meetings where you have the opportunity to ask questions, right? You don't want to walk one day into your deputy's office and say, tell me how my role is connecting to the vision, right? They're going to tell you, go do your work. Find the right opportunity for it. Find mentors. That's very important for you, for people, whatever role you're in. If you're in a supervisory role, even more important, because you're going to see a lot of staffing challenges, right? You have to provide the leadership to train them and train yourself. A lot is being asked out of supervisors today. So engage with your leadership to understand how you can build a team for the future, right? You need to build a resilient team for the future and understand what that team needs to be like. If you're rank and file, then ask about how your role will influence your division strategy. Ask them if there's a metric. Ask them if you can provide a metric. Often, when our leaders make a mistake, we're all very vocal about it, right? They are making me come back 4 days a week. Such a bad idea, right? It's okay. I know that's a pink elephant these days. But when something gets done right, do we ever give feedback and say, this was done well? I hope you could do more of this because this benefited me. So remember to also send feedback for what was successful. Your bosses are just like you. Somewhere they're also lost in their roles trying to figure out what works for you and what doesn't, right? So when you give them feedback and say, this worked for me, I felt more motivated to do my job, then they know what works, right? They'll align themselves to make all of their teams happy. One thing I can tell you, I think every supervisor is really invested in making their team the best team. And you need to stay engaged with your bosses, with your leadership. So that's a great question. Connect with your leadership. Ask them the right questions at the right forums, at the right venues. If they cannot give you a metric, come up with a metric. One of the biggest challenges I see in project management, whether it's my own direct reports and my own team or all of you, we cannot tell a good story. We can throw data. We can tell you 4 million, 5 million, 4.2, data is everywhere. But if I said, what does that mean to the average individual? We cannot tell a story. I've struggled with it. My bosses have trained me to tell better stories. The reason I'm telling you this is, if your boss says, I don't have a metric, look at what is it that you're achieving in your job every day. Is there a story there? Can you take that story to them and say, here is a $10 million project that was failing because nobody saw this error in schedule. I looked at Prism's schedule. I fixed it. Now I knew where the risk was. I figured out the critical path. We need to go do a programming change. Now the PM is doing it. I actually helped save whatever dollars, right? If you can tell that story, that is a great motivation for your boss, right? To set yourself up for success and provide the resources you need down the line. So I think it's a two-way conversation. Start with the strategic plan, but also work with your leadership on how it translates to your team. Okay, any other comments? I think that is a really good note to kind of wrap this up. When we say people first, I've heard cynicism around it. I am really encouraged by the level of confidence and optimism that you put to saying that. Yeah, well, thank you, and make the best of this. And you should all give yourself a hand just for showing up.
Thank you, Sujaya. That was really very interactive and very inspiring speech. Thank you. So let's give a big round of applause for Sujaya. And with that, we have about 15 minutes break time. But again, reminder, please use your microphones. Again, entire thing is being recorded, right? So all the good like comments you had, all of those would not be recorded this time because hardly anyone use the microphone. Right? Please use the microphone. I don't want to annoy you with like reminding it again and again, but please use the microphone when you can. And you can, of course, right? Every single time you speak. So yeah, let's take a 15 minutes break, and then we'll have the topic of CTC liaison after that. And if you have not signed in yet, please sign in. Yeah.